maybe we can just start off with folks introducing themselves. So I'm Kevin, the Director of Training here at Mental Health Partners.
Hi. Holly Higgins, Southeast Subgroup.
Hi, Holly.
Hi.
Craig Iverson, the Mental Health Center in Denver.
Tracy Jones, All Health Network, and
hey, this is Jesse Hibner here with All Health Network as well. I'm the new quality improvement clinical trainer here at All Health.
Great, very nice meeting you, Jesse.
Yeah, I'm sorry I haven't been able to join. I've been here a little over a month, but I have a meeting conflict during this time, so I'm just going to be here for a few minutes.
No worries. Good to have you for as long as you could be here.
Sounds good.
Stare at my computer. Hi. My voice is going out because I have a cold, but my name is Sierra Isaacs. Currently, I am the HR manager for Southeast, but I'm going to be moving into the training manager position after Holly leaves in February. So I came to sit in and kind of learn some stuff.
Welcome.
Right.
Welcome.
Thank you. Sure.
And I'm Gerald. I'm with Aurora Mental Health. I'm the interim training manager.
Hey, Gerald.
Good morning.
So is that everybody, or did I can't
it looks
tell
like
from
Brandy's online as well. Brandy, do you want to unmute yourself, or I can unmute you?
Hey, I'm Brandy. I'm the clinical intern and training manager at Jefferson Center.
And maybe two more people on the phone. And Jenny's here.
Okay. Well, it looks like we've got 9 participants, which is a good number for us, I think, isn't it? Historically,
yeah,
so that's really nice.
Great.
Plus the other guests we have in the room. So this is great. So the first thing we always do is we just kind of start off with a review of the agenda and see if there are any additions. So Tracy was able to send this out. It's also attached to the invitation. And we've actually got a pretty full agenda for today. And didn't know if anyone has any suggestions, additions to the agenda that you would like us to make sure we touch base on while we have our time together. Okay, sounds like we're good to go with what we've got. And then if you remember, for those of you who were online last time, we had a little hiccup with the leadership presentation.
Sorry about that.
No worries, Tracy, that happens. So we thought, Craig, Tracy, and I thought that we would go ahead and go back to that and kind of finish what we can of that and see what questions you have. Tracy, do you still have that PowerPoint? Are you able to put that up on the screen?
Yeah, I'm just bringing that up.
Thank you. So for those of you who weren't part of the conversation last time around, and it's been a tradition of this committee for a long time where we share our best practices with each other so we can learn from each other. And one of the topics that I brought to the table is the work we're really actually getting into here at MHP around leadership and leadership development, and really looking at kind of this conundrum that I imagine many of you also have, that we hire great clinicians to be managers and supervisors, and then oftentimes they get into that role and it's a challenge. So we're outlining a leadership development program that focuses more on leadership and what leadership is, and then introduces management skills secondary. And the whole premise we have behind the models that we're looking at are to think about how we can be purposeful and strategic in our leadership to promote employee engagement. And I don't know about any of you. We do a yearly employee engagement survey. And in the last couple of years with the leadership changes we've had, funding changes, I know everyone's been going through, and pretty much the craziness of the healthcare environment, it's been a real drag on us. Retention numbers are not where we want them to be as well. So we're going to really try and be proactive about how we can use a leadership model to help us through all this change. So I'm not going to go through everything we went through last time, but I do want to go back to at least the second slide here. Am I able to drive, or you got it, Tracy? Okay. So actually, I just want to tell you a little story on what you're looking at and some work that we did this week, and then I'm going to jump to the end of the PowerPoint to talk about servant leadership. But last week, one of our directors did a secondary trauma training. Her name's Janine, and she's a fabulous trainer. And we were, we probably had 40 clinicians at one of our sites engaged in the topic of burnout and vicarious trauma and all the things that come with a conversation training around secondary trauma. And one of the things that Janine had them do as part of where they're at right now is to check in, and she had them all stand up. She had Post-it paper up around the room, and everyone was given a marker, and they could just simply write 2 or 3 things about how they're doing right now and how they're feeling about their work at MHP. And I wish I could say everything was positive. And things on there will be things that maybe you might guess, but folks are high level of stress, feeling isolated, confused, worried about financial stability, lots of issues that were just significant. And it was really heart-wrenching, actually. It was particular with this group of folks that deal with some of our crisis population as well. So there was a lot of worry in the room and concern about clients and things along those lines. So what was interesting about that is the following Monday, for the management team meeting of all of our senior managers and up, we put those posters up on the wall and had the leadership team do a walkabout and look at everything folks were saying. And a lot of the things clinical staff was saying they were also feeling. And we began a process that looked at moving from, boy, this is really hard information, to, okay, well, if we're the leaders, and as leaders, we're in charge of the environment that our employees work in, what are we going to do about it? So that's what brought us back to this slide. So this is a slide that I shared last time, but in brief, it comes from some research actually out of the 1970s. And I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but very relevant, that basically highlights if any one of these 5 elements, moving from left to right, vision, skills, incentives, resources, and action plan, if that's missing during the change process, you can see on the far right-hand side what the likely employee engagement response is going to be. So what we did is we started to look really closely at the slides, and we talked about varying times where we've had projects or grants or other things where, well, maybe the vision wasn't clear, and we kind of talked around a lot of these things. But what we really saw was a lot of frustration in our employees' comments and anxiety. So as a leadership team, what we looked at was if we could discern from what we saw on the walls with this group of folks that they're highly frustrated and experiencing a lot of anxiety, what could we do for them? So in response, we've decided to bring in some additional training on the health home model that we're incorporating over there, and then also to look at what additional resources are needed, and particularly the resources were around topics around safety. So I don't know if any of you have any questions or thoughts on it, but it was a really cool way to structure feedback from employees and then process as a leadership team to figure out what potential solutions or next steps could be. So I don't know if anyone has any questions or reactions to it. I'm sorry, I know I just did a lot of talking, so.
So Kevin, could you elaborate a little bit more on this type of safety training that you're thinking about bringing in?
Yeah. We had several incidences, actually, mostly last spring, over at this site. It's called the Ryan Wellness Center, right there on Broadway in Boulder. And there was some really series of unfortunate things that happened, but we ended up applying for a grant. And then we, about a month ago, just got notice that we won the grant. And what we're doing is partnering with this group called HSS. Some of you may be familiar with them. They specialize in healthcare safety and security. And what they do is they do a series of de-escalation safety trainings for healthcare staff. They specialize in hospital ERs, and they draw in CPI and TCI and other proven strategies into a 2-hour session. It's really concrete and specific for healthcare folks. So that's one of the steps that we're bringing in. And then we've also approved, and I'm not sure how I feel about it, but we've approved cameras in the parking lots over there to help with some of the issues that come up at night or in the late afternoon in the parking lot. So, yeah. So there's a group called HSS. I don't know if any of you are familiar with them.
Is there a big cost of that?
Not too bad. The upfront cost, it's around $5,000, but you can train up to 8 people, and then they're your trainers for your staff for up to 5 years. So the upfront cost, thankfully we have a grant for it, but they go it's a trainer of trainer model, right? Train the trainer model, and we'll go through a 2-day training, and then they're good to go to train the rest of the staff. I feel bad here. Let me see if I can pull up the name of the group. I think it's called Healthcare Solutions. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. It is HSS, but it's Healthcare and High Risk Security Services. And if any of you offline want to learn more about that part, let me know, and I can get you the info and the contact info there.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Any comments or questions about the slide or reactions to it on change?
Did the managers discuss this and kind of plot where they think your company is at?
Yeah, it was a fun, it was a hard conversation. So we had everybody in tables. We had 6 to 8 managers and supervisors and directors, what have you, at each of the tables. And they had a good 15-20 minute conversation about, what's on the slide, what do they see in the walls, and what are potential next steps. So yeah, I think they came away with feeling like what was really cool about it was that you get a sense of there's a predictable response to change, that it's not just MHP, for example, that's struggling with change, right? And there are actually really specific things we can do to deal with that as leaders. So it felt pretty proactive by the time we got to the end of it. And the feedback I got through the evaluations was pretty positive. It really helps frame the conversation so that, because sometimes, as you probably well know too, with these kind of conversations, they can go in a million different directions, and they may feel good, but in the end, how helpful were they? And it really prevents a lot of self-blame or finger pointing too, because it's a pretty proactive conversation. Okay. Well, thanks. Thanks for letting me share that part. So I'm gonna, Tracy, would you be able to help me go to the model on, it's below 4 and 5, it's there, it is 7, please. Thanks, Tracy. So, so what we've decided to do is, and some of you may very well be familiar with the work of Robert Greenleaf and servant leadership. What we've decided to do is we're doing what we're called as a deep dive, is called, with our managers, directors, and executive team on what servant leadership is and whether or not we want to adopt it as a leadership model in our agency. And it just kind of, here are a couple things about it that, you know, I wanted to share, and then certainly if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But we landed on servant leadership in part because it felt reflective of the work that we do in terms of serving our community. And it also felt reflective of our mission and vision around hope and recovery, where it kind of mirrors the work that we try and do with our clients. So when we took our mission and vision and overlaid that with the themes of servant leadership, we felt that there was a lot of alignment. You know, whereas with some of the other models, well, that one right there, and there's others on these slides that you all can look at later, that are great leadership models, and they're really good, yet they kind of felt like incongruent with who we are as a nonprofit and who we are within an agency trying to serve the populations that we work with. So there's a kind of a, in a nutshell, what leadership is about is, maybe I'll do it backwards. There are 11 descriptors or identifiers of what the servant leadership model is, and that's what you can see on the screen in front of you. About calling, do people believe you're willing to sacrifice self-interest for the good of the group? A high value on listening. Do people believe that you want to hear their ideas and will value them? I mean, so much about our engagement surveys is around miscommunication, missed opportunities for communication. Empathy. Do people believe you will understand what is happening in their lives and how it affects them? Hope and healing and awareness. Stewardship. You know, I don't want to read all these to you guys, but they're all there for you to take a look at. And in a nutshell, what the servant leadership model is about is the idea that as leaders, our job is to support our employees and staff be the best that they can be in pursuit of the mission. So everything we need to do as leaders is about supporting our teams actualize what we have in our mission and vision statement. So it kind of changes the framework around leadership from being out front to some degree kind of being more behind the scenes and letting your staff shine. If you think about the traditional staff hierarchy model, it's a pyramid, right, with the CEO at the top. Servant leadership says you should flip that, because ultimately the people who are the best stewards of your mission and ambassadors of the mission are the people on the front lines who do the work. So what we're trying to do is really look at reorientating ourselves and how we work and how we lead, so that we're holding the mission and vision out front with everything, and then designing, whether it's our committee structure, our training plans, and other things to support our employees, you know, with the work that they do. And it's also, to some folks initially, it might feel like, geez, that kind of feels a little soft or gooey or fuzzy. But there's a lot of proven research around servant leadership that it's a leadership model that has really stood the test of time. For example, Southwest Airlines has a big investment in servant leadership. They have a whole servant leadership academy. There's a famous manufacturing company out of St. Louis called Barry Waymiller, and they've adopted this model. And you can actually see, if any of you are familiar with Simon Sinek, who did some really cool leadership stuff online on YouTube, and wrote this book called The Why, and how important the why is in the work. Bob Chapman, who's the CEO of Barry Waymiller, and Simon Sinek do a lot of work together. And there's no doubt that if you trace the companies that have adopted this model, they have done really well over time. So stepping back from that, right now, what I've been asked to do is do a series of trainings for all of our managers, supervisors, and executive team on what servant leadership is and what the implications are. And it's pretty exciting stuff for me in particular, because this is what I did my dissertation on, and have a lot of experience with it. So I thought our hope is that over time, this is going to help our organization be better, right? And have better outcomes, and in doing so, impact our employee attrition rates and engagement scores. So I don't know if you have any questions or thoughts. I've seen some people have dropped off, so I don't know if they're not interested in this, but whatever. But I don't know, what questions do you guys have, or what are your insights? Or
I like the sound of the servant leadership, and I'd be interested to see if and when you do adopt it, what impact it has, for sure.
Yeah, me too.
It makes sense to me when I'm looking at it.
Me too, because I really look at, when I supervise and when I'm talking to staff, I really talk about altruism and humility, and how important that is to not to have this relationship with anyone like this, where you're right beside them and you're driving beside someone, no matter what position you're in. And it's so important because that's the client care model that we want to do. So I think it's huge that, you'd probably do a great info training video for everyone, that we could all utilize.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the goal, just so you know, is by the end of this fiscal year, we have a one-page belief statement about leadership at MHP. So that if a new employee comes on board, this is what they can expect from their supervisor. Right now, unfortunately, our engagement scores, we have some teams that have 90 out of 100. I mean, they're rocking it. They're doing awesome. And then we have other teams that are way at the other end of the spectrum. So it's been really frustrating for me in the HR department to know that we can hire employees into certain teams, and just based upon the team, can predict how long they're going to be here and what their experience is going to be like. So the hope is that if we finally have a compass about who we are and what we believe about leadership, that'll help mitigate the kind of these huge differences in experience that all our employees have.
Oh, gosh, I'm jealous. I mean, it's nice to have a solid model and a plan. It's something that I'm kind of struggling with right now at our agency. So I hope you'll give us some updates as it goes on throughout the year.
Absolutely, I'd be glad to, and look forward to sharing, and any of the resources that I create or agendas, happy to send them out to anyone who's interested. There is a book, if any of you are interested. Where is it here?
That'd be cool.
It's I'll show it. It's called Everybody Matters. And if you just type into YouTube, Everybody Matters, and Bob Chapman is his name. I love TED Talks, for example. And not to say that it's the right thing for all of you or your groups, but it's a really insightful way of looking at leadership, and he talks about that. And then certainly the work of Simon Sinek. I mean, he's part of this book too, and really talks about how we need to support our employees and staff in all industries deal with incredible fast-paced change, adaptive change, and the pyramid, the hierarchy of the old way of running corporations is no longer work. So it's good stuff. So thanks for allowing me to share it. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Good, thank you.
You bet. So what's next?
So next we have Craig, can you go through those 7 work goals for the new year, the article that you shared?
I sure can.
I will bring it up.
All right. So just a refresher, and for folks that are new on the call today, Kevin and Tracy and I, our goal is each month to maybe share an article that's related to professional development, training, technology, something. And so I found this one and thought I would send it out to people, and we could just have a brief discussion about kind of the idea of setting some personal and professional goals and stuff. So I think it's a brief article, all the way through that and stuff, but I just wanted to have a discussion about how I have found it helpful to put some professional development goals to some personal goals together. And then a lot of times I find that personal goals, whether it's perhaps to get more sleep, exercise more, improve your diet or something like that. A lot of times those things you have the opportunity. You're at work a lot. Between driving to work, being at work, and driving home, we're at work a lot. And so I thought it would be fun just to have a discussion to see from each of us on the line today if you have a professional work goal that you've thought about the last couple of months, at the beginning of the year and stuff. And so I'll start off by sharing some of the things that there were 3 of them that kind of resonated with me in this article and stuff. And so one of them was the idea of incorporating more kindness into professional interactions. So one of the things I've noticed, when I started at the Mental Health Center in Denver, we had about 325 staff that work for us. We're close to 800 employees right now. And I work at our main building, and we have we're kind of famous for this fancy coffee machine that we got upstairs in our break room and stuff. And so unfortunately, I have too much coffee. But the point being, I'm always running into people in the hallway that I don't know, or in the break room that I don't know and stuff. And so one of the things that I've really tried to talk to my team yesterday, there's an old, I think it's one of the major hotel chains that has a training that they give their staff. Like if you're 20 feet away from somebody, try to make eye contact. If you're 10 feet away from somebody, eye contact and smile. And when you're 5 feet away from somebody, try to have a verbal greeting to them, facial contact and a verbal greeting and stuff. And so I'm trying to do that. A lot of times I'll be up there and there'll be a couple of people in line, and maybe I don't know them, but I try to start a conversation with people and stuff. And so I'm trying to, a lot of times, when we're stressed or we're busy and you get a request, maybe somebody's not happy with a training in Relias, or they can't figure something out, it's easy to just quickly shoot back an email saying just to do that, or just whatever the fix is. But I'm trying to make a conscious effort to just try, be a little more, I'm polite, maybe not the right word, but just a little more, I guess, generous with my time and interaction with people and stuff. And it's I challenge everybody to try it, this next week, and you're walking around the hallway, initiate some conversation with somebody. If you're sitting next to somebody in a meeting and it hasn't started, or it will surprise nobody, but it's just the power of smiling at somebody really gets an interaction off on a great start, I think. So that was one that resonated with me, incorporate more kindness. The other, and then the 2 other ones, one was regain control of my schedule. And so I'm actually doing some research, and I'm going to put. I'm doing a training on time management here in a couple of weeks, and it'll definitely have a section on email management stuff. And so I'm in a unique job here at MHD that I'm the director of training, but I'm also in charge of our process improvement activities like Lean and Six Sigma and now design thinking. And I'm finding that I'm getting a lot of, I just get a lot of demands and people pulling me in different directions. And I'm trying to juggle so many different projects right now that I feel like I need to be a better prepared, for that and stuff. So I'm working on time management. And then the other one was the daily tech timeout to improve your focus and reduce stress. And so one of the things I've committed to doing, I'm trying to take more, I break my day up into, 8 to 12 and 1 to 5. And I'm trying to, I used to, have a sandwich or a salad at my desk, and surf the internet during lunch. And so I'm trying to consciously, shut my computer down and walk away and go for a walk or, run an errand or something, just so I can take that break instead of being, staring at a small computer screen all day and stuff. So those are some things that resonated with me that I'm trying to work on. So I thought it'd be fun for us to take turns and go around the room and just maybe share an idea, or if you had a chance to read this, what something that you might do, or if you have some other work resolutions that you're going to incorporate this year, it'd be fun to hear about them. So.
I love the one about more kindness for sure. And I like the way that you also said about that you integrate that into your emails, because I tend to be, my natural inclination is to just tell people what they need to know and put bullet points and leave it at that. And I'm trying to be more conscious of rereading the email and then putting at the start, hello, how are you? Rather than this is what I need you to know, and off we go. So I'm very conscious of that. The tech timeout, I was just reading on here where it says that this guy has his assistant change his passwords on his social media every Monday and holding it till Friday. That stresses me out. But I do know I need to be better about being on social media so much.
I definitely relate to a lot of the things that all of you are practicing and doing. And I know I'm transitioning. I'm heading back to Boston to help out with parents that need help. And it's a transition and it's tough. I mean, I have a really good position and things are changing because I need to do that. And so I'm actually finding myself, I got a little frantic there, trying to kind of work on how's this transition going to go. I have great staff that are helping me. I'm training people, helping with different roles that I do. But knowing my own feelings and allowing my feelings, at the same time being soothing to the staff. So it's like this interesting combination of being kind of honest, but also remembering that I have to help them transition. We have some closure with a long-term relationship with supervision for many of my staff that I've known for many years. So it's really interesting of how that's kind of going for me and my own grief process with it, and yet needing to be strong, and also, very excited about the people that are going to be taking over, because I'm really confident with them, and I think they're very skilled. And so it's this interesting combination, but taking the time to kind of really go there with both things. And I think it's, once I kind of slowed down a little bit with it, like it's going to be okay, we'll figure everything out, and it's been a lot better for me too.
Well, all the best, Kelly, with your transition. That's huge.
Yeah. It's not just, it's like relocating across the country and then, finding new work and everything. There's a lot to it. And my agency's been so supportive and wonderful. And, I'm going to miss everyone tremendously. But yeah, it's like interesting how, all the emotions do come up with a lot of relationships. And so knowing that a lot of those will continue, but it's and then my new supervisor that's coming in to do the clinical supervision, just even comforting him, and he's excited and nervous, and everyone has different feelings. And I think allowing those feelings has been really good, just to kind of talk about it. And then we move through the plan and comfort everybody. And I don't know, that's really been helpful for me too. It's almost like, you think of therapy with termination and closure and with clients, and it's no different with staff when you really have those relationships. It's interesting. So.
Well, Craig, there was two things that stood out to me from the article. One was, and I love the first one about smiling, that example that you gave. There's an interesting Harvard Business Review article that says when a supervisor smiles at those that they work with, their staff is 37% smarter.
That's got to be
so
true.
It's kind of like simple, but wow, it has big implications. So to the point of the article, those little things sometimes can go farther than we ever thought they would. So trying to smile is a good thing for the year. And then the other thing is really setting for myself and my department really clear goals, so that at the end of the year we can actually say we achieve what we set out to do, because we have a tendency to get pulled in so many different directions, and we have two goals right now that we're driving towards. One is that leadership one-pager that I talked about. The other is I think I've mentioned the 4098 campaign to train 4,098 people in suicide prevention this year. And so far we've trained almost, I think, 1,200. So for us, that's kind of like a little barometer. You know how what schools have those with fundraising? It's really clear, like that's where we're headed. So, and I don't know, that just helps feel more anchored in the midst of all the change and turmoil. So those are the two things I'm thinking about this year.
Anybody else want to chime in? Okay. All right, should we move on to the next topic?
Thanks,
Yeah,
Craig,
thanks
for
for
sharing
that, Craig. That's always interesting, your articles. So the next item is the Dean status and training plan check-in. Kevin, do you want to take that one?
Sure. I lost you there for a second. What was where are we?
Sorry, Dean status and training plan
right.
check-in.
Right. So, I just felt the need to check in with everybody on this topic because it was kind of something that was front and center for the committee for a while. And we even had there was that one series of meetings down at Dora, right? Down in Denver. So, I don't know. I just wanted to see how everyone's doing with this. If there are any questions or things that we need to talk about related to the mandate to have our training plans, and how are our training plans doing, anything bubbling up, or, it'd be great if it's not, but I thought as a committee we should really be attentive to this one. So, and I certainly don't have the long history that others might with the deemed status piece of it, since I'm still consider myself somewhat new to, I've only been doing this for 3 years, but we had to do a lot of work at MHP to align our training plans to what the expectations of DORA were. Because we had I think we all had, here at MHP at least, we had all assumed that these things were happening, but we didn't have a cohesive document that kind of anchored it all together to say, hey, if someone gets audited, here's our training plan so you know what we're doing. So, I don't know, just want to check in. Thoughts?
Yeah, this is Jenny, and I'm only 3 months into this group, so I was wondering if anybody had like an outline or something that you use. I was asked last year to put something together, and so I would just be interested in comparing what I have to what somebody else has.
Sure.
Yeah,
well, that would be awesome.
We came up with something, I can't remember how long ago it was now, maybe 18 months ago, or
yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, around that. So we came up with a kind of baseline training plan, and if somebody got audited, then we've got a template of a letter and a training plan to say, yes, this person met these requirements and this is what our training plan covers. So I can send that to you, Jenny, no problem.
Oh, thank you so much. That would be wonderful to just kind of make sure I'm on the same page as everybody else. So
yeah, I think if we're all kind of together on this, we're a lot stronger. And
right.
We met with Dora, and it for me, it kind of muddied the water even more, to be honest. So
yeah,
and we
yeah,
never got any further feedback. We submitted the template to them, and we didn't get any further feedback. So we're assuming it's okay. And I've used it a couple of times for staff that got audited and didn't hear anything else from it. And saying that, we have a new risk and compliance manager with us now. She started last month, and we have a project. She used to work for BHI. She used to be an auditor. And we are going to go through all our required training again and make sure everything checks the right boxes and everything. So when I've gone through that project with her, I'd be happy to share with you guys anything that I've learned and anything that I think maybe we need to change on the required trainings that we all came up with.
That would be phenomenal, because, you know, as an integrated healthcare center as well, I have to do the doctors and the nurse practitioners and the medical assistants and all of those other pieces as well. So anything I can glean from you guys' knowledge and experience would be fantastic.
Right.
Good.
Yeah, this is Craig, and yeah, Tracy, I remember your generosity in sharing some of your documents there a couple of years ago was helpful and stuff, and so we modified it and put in the MHED information, and it's always I mean, there's just a tiny bit of anxiety I have that in 3 to 4 years I've not had a single request from a therapist to have to use that or see it, or I haven't heard of a therapist getting audited or being required to submit anything. It seems baffling. We have probably 350 clinical staff working here.
Huh.
I've only in 3 years I've only had one employee get audited.
Sorry, Kevin. What was I spoke over you? I apologize.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying that in 3 years I've only had one employee get audited. So it's a lot of anxiety, but it kind of just always hangs out there.
This is Brandy. That's really interesting, because last year I think I had probably at least 5 clinicians telling me that they were being audited.
Wow.
So, and it was very helpful. I based my training plan off of the template that Tracy had shared, and everybody who was audited, as far as I am aware of, had passed. So we didn't have any issues. It was really helpful to go over everything and talk about deemed status back when we were talking with Dora and discussing it a lot in these meetings. We made some changes, and I think that really helped us get through all of those audits, but we got quite a few.
Great. Well, maybe we can segue. It's very closely related to the next topic on the agenda, which is so I don't think Moses was on the line, but he works for CBHC, and he was at a legislative committee meeting, I guess, a week or 2 ago, and he was reaching out to some folks that he knows to see if any of us had an opinion or I guess a concern about a potential new bill, which we were able to get that sent out. But it essentially is, and I have to say that I'm not as knowledgeable about what a psychotherapist is and how that's different. I understand it's a unlicensed therapist that's practicing, and documenting and seeing people. And the bill is being put forth, suggesting that the psychotherapist would need to participate and conform to the very same competency and training requirements as a licensed counselor or a licensed social worker or a licensed marriage and family therapist and an addiction counselor. So I told Moses that we were having this meeting here coming up soon, and I thought I would throw it out to And his point was that CBHC didn't really have a strong, reaction either way, but they were being asked about it and stuff. So essentially, it's a pending bill at the new legislature that would require, and again, an unlicensed psychotherapist to have to take the same training requirements and improve, like the people that have been audited that you just mentioned, be able to show that they've developed a personal learning plan, that they've completed a certain number of training hours and things like that. So, has anybody heard of this? Anybody have any thoughts either way about it or questions?
Craig, did Moses happen to share anything about the backstory or in terms of what's the impetus behind this?
No, sorry.
Okay.
Until now, has anybody heard about it?
I had not, no. As I'm just flipping through the bill here, Craig, I'm struck by the last section, section 3 at the very end. It says that this bill is an act for immediate preservation of public peace, health, and safety. I'm just curious about what's driving this. But I'm happy, Craig, to ask around here, ask some of my clinical folks what they think of it and give you some feedback.
Yeah, and that's what I did too. And I share a hallway with 3 or 4 licensed LPCs, and I guess nobody thought it in some ways it kind of makes sense. You've got everybody else in that line of work required to show these trainings and stuff. I don't know that anybody sees it as a burden right now, and stuff. I don't know. I guess if you get a chance to check in with some people, in the next few days that are licensed or work out there, I'll probably try and talk to a couple of program managers that have a long history of supervising licensed staff and see if they have any thoughts about it. But I guess I would probably let Moses know that unless there's some unintended consequence that we're not realizing.
Right.
All right. Well, thanks for that.
Okay, and the next piece, Craig, is the workplace respect and harassment training.
Okay, so I feel like we've mentioned this a few times, but maybe we could have a little longer discussion about it and stuff. So Tracy, I did scan an article and sent that out.
I'll just take a minute to find that.
Okay, no worries.
But bear with me. But if you want to carry on, and I'll find that for you.
Yeah. So I'm a member of this national organization there. Used to be Association of Talent Development. Now I think it's just called TD, Talent Development stuff. But I get online articles and stuff. And so what struck me, 2018 seemed to be the year. The Me Too movement had a lot of publicity. I think sexual harassment, bullying, 2 things that have been in our society and had a high profile the last couple of years. And so this article was just a 1-page research findings from folks that Fortune 500 companies and healthcare providers. And so the headline says that the majority of companies require staff to take sexual harassment prevention training. And then just to summarize it real quickly, 88% of organizations have a formal written policy in place, and then 70% of companies have a sexual harassment prevention training in place there. And then it goes on to say that the average training length of the respondents that they say that they're offering is about two hours per year for that stuff. So my first question is how many people on the line today know that either your HR department or you are providing a sexual harassment prevention training to staff?
come over. And so here at Southeast, we do a new hire sexual harassment review. We do have a policy in place. Part of that policy, we do a training, but it's very brief. And I know that it's actually one of our initiatives this year to set up something a little bit more full and actually devote some really good time to it, and then also put something in place to do some refresher trainings with current staff, because I think it's really great talking to new hires, but when you have new hires starting, there's so much that they are getting with the onboarding process and things that they have to learn about their jobs, so those refreshers are so important.
Yeah, I would say that we're at MHP, we're in a similar boat in terms of relegated to NEO, new employee orientation, and then we do have a short course, online course that we've made as part of our annual training. But we need a lot. We need to beef this one up.
This is Gerald from
Brandy. We do require our. I'm sorry, am I talking over somebody?
Sorry, I think there might be a delay in the voice.
Okay. So we do require staff to take the sexual harassment training through Relias annually. And then there's also some information about it in our employee handbook, which folks get at NEO, of course, and then we have people review that annually as well. Now we just started doing that, so it's mostly online, but it is happening every year.
Gerald, were you going to share?
Yeah, we at Aurora, we have it's really just a 30-minute training in Relias that we use. It's fairly interactive now with videos, and then you kind of have to play detective and look at the video, what doesn't seem right in the video and in the presentation. What I liked about your suggestion is, though, this respect addition to the training. I think oftentimes there's a misconception that harassment, just like harassment and being offensive and obnoxious in the office, can fall under this policy, and I think that's something that often folks don't realize, which is why I like that respect edition. That was definitely something that I talked to HR about, making that training more clear for folks what it all impacts.
Yeah, and I was going to mention, Kevin, I think you mentioned you recently purchased Relias, and they're in your library there, as we have too. It's called Sexual Harassment for Employees, and it's probably not the best wording, because it's sexual harassment prevention. Sexual harassment for sexual harassment for supervisors, and then there's one called Sexual Harassment Federal Law. And I had previewed those, and I thought they were. They're part of our library. We paid for them. We can track compliance and completion and stuff. But I was overruled, and we had a new HR manager that had come in, and he'd been working for a local municipality, and he had a training that he's put together for police officers, firefighters, city employees. And so we ended up going with that. We just videotaped him. He provided the training once, and we had a professional videographer come in and record him and then edit it and stuff. And so we are just getting ready to release that here in the next couple of weeks probably. And we're going to assign it to all staff and then ask them to take it every 2 years, and then we'll assign it to new staff and have them complete it maybe their first 30 days that they come in.
Yeah.
How many? So MHC does have a policy too, called harassment-free workplace, that we assign to people in Relias and have them read that and attest to it. They have to do it within their first 3 days of hire and stuff. I heard one person say they have a policy. Do other companies have if you have a policy or procedure that you can go over with people about it?
Ours is similar to others. It's just part of the employee handbook. But there's not a policy that we review with everybody each year.
Yeah, I believe ours is the same here at All Health Network.
Tracy, I'm sorry I didn't catch that.
Sorry, I believe ours is the same at All Health Network, that it's in our employee handbook, but I can't see a particular policy on it. I'm going to double check that though.
Well, I think I was just interested in hearing what different people were doing, and I think if you're trying to advocate for something like this article, it would be something to give you some support. You know, if there's anybody that feels it's one more training they have to add on, or if it's against other priorities. But I felt very strongly about trying to get something going, and it's been frustrating. We started discussing this about 6 months ago, and I'm just finally now going to be able to put this training out. But that, I feel like it's an important, and I wanted something that the HR director or vice president of HR is going to send an email out to all staff announcing it and introducing it, and then they'll be able to be directed back to Relias to view it and attest to it. And we'll take a CD we have of it and we'll post that on Relias.
Yeah. Thanks, Craig, for sharing that.
Yeah, thanks, Craig.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
So let's see, Tracy, we got the next topic is Tech Corner. Anyone have any new cool training technology you're aware of that you want to share?
Hey, this is Jesse. I'm just going to jump in here. I ended up not having to step out for the meeting. I thought I had a conflict before, so I've appreciated being in so far. Actually, one thing I'm working with our computer system integration team for our EHR is we use the Walk Me Through software. Not sure how many other people know of that, but one thing that we haven't really utilized from that is there's little information bubbles, is kind of what we're calling it, that you can drop into the EHR without having to actually code it. So it's a really easy kind of like a tooltip that you can just integrate throughout the entire EHR. So I'm going to be working with our computer systems team to be getting more of those in there to help the clinical staff navigate through. So pretty excited about that, since I didn't realize we don't need that to be actually coded. It's just can be dropped in pretty easily, actually.
Right. And Jess, you guys are on Smart Care, right, too?
Yep, that's right.
And you, I think your predecessor Sarah was showing that to us, Jesse. So you're actually using it now, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. The Walk Me Throughs, is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really a great tool that is both for we use during NEO for onboarding as a training tool, but then it can actually be used in the live environment as well. And it can actually use it to complete the actual documentation task or the actual clinical task. It's not just a reference of go here or go here, but you can actually complete the real item with that. And so we're going to be totally revamping those as we've made a lot of changes in the system. So yeah.
Well, if there's a way without, with protecting PHI, if there's a way that you could show it maybe at our next meeting, kind of show that, because I was very interested in it, and I came back here and it's and I did a little research on that program and stuff, and it seems pretty nifty, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could even pull it up now if we have a few minutes. It wouldn't take me more than a couple minutes if you guys are interested.
Sure.
Yep, we have time, yeah. And so is it just like a software? You buy a subscription to it on a yearly basis?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's the yearly basis. Actually, Tracy, as a matter of fact, is who knew about it before and then recommended it for our agency to use with Smart Care. It's on your desktop. How do you get your desktop?
Oh.
This one. One of the things I will say that we have found with it is that it can be a bit finicky depending on the type of hardware you're on. So like, for example, Tracy's computer here that we're broadcasting from is one of our tablet hardware, and the tablets don't work as well with the Walk Me Through.
Okay.
They work better with like a hard desktop. And so that's one thing. Even actually in our training this week that I was using it, some of the staff were encountering some problems, which is why we're going to be revamping it. But as long as it's maintained, it works pretty well. So down here in this right-hand corner is how it lives within the environment. And you just click on this, and it populates the whole library of custom trainings that we've designed. And then during onboarding, we assign them a library of specific trainings for their tasks, their different clinical tasks, that then when you click on one of these, like let's do this one here, it's going to then in the actual environment here prompt you each step of the way for what to do. And as you complete these items, it'll progress through the steps that you've developed.
Wow. That is so cool.
And the little info bubbles that I'm talking about that we're going to be adding more, like here's one, for example. This is, I can actually exit out of this. So these little icons here are part of the Walk Me Through, but those aren't dependent on which one you've selected. Those always are there. So if this wasn't showing, this little info bubble would still be available. And you can drop these in wherever you'd like. Again, they don't have to be coded. And then you can put up to a 4,000 character count in what actually appears once you hover over that.
Huh.
So it's a pretty slick little software that we've really helped us, especially with the transition to Smart Care from our old system. And now we're going to start using it more for just a variety of things. And actually, we even had a thought the other day about using it for our auditors who come, and we could even set them up with a list of onboarding tasks, essentially, but would be specifically for their auditing list, and then it could tell them exactly where to find the items.
My calendar scheduling.
No, I would be interested, and I don't know about all of you, if you could put this on an upcoming meeting agenda, have a little bit more time. I'd like to invite some of my QA folks to it so that they could see this.
Absolutely.
I don't know how people feel about that.
That's great.
It's great.
Cool.
Thanks for sharing that, Jesse.
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
super awesome.
So since Tracy coordinates the agenda, it would be easy to get you on soon, right?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Do we have any around the room training shout outs, questions, or issues, challenges we should talk about as a team?
I have one. We have been utilizing an external trainer, and we have had so much wonderful feedback on her, and I've sat in on a couple of her trainings, and I want more. Even though I'm hearing the same thing, I'm like, I want to sit in this again. So I wanted to share it with you guys. Her name is Anjali Nandi, which is Anjali, and then last name Nandi, Nandi. And she runs a training. I've based the name on her blog, and it's called Get Your Group Groove Back. So it's for any staff that run group therapy.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty amazing, as in the first thing is there's no PowerPoint. I'm like, yes. And the second thing is there are no tables. So when I set up the room, I'm setting it up like they're in a group. It's an all-day training. It's 6 hours, and we've managed to get the funding through Signal, and it's well worth it. She is a very engaging trainer. I didn't want to use the word dynamic. I wouldn't use the word dynamic. She's quite an introvert, but extremely engaging, and the whole day are group activities. So people are completely immersed in it. They do the activities that it gives them ideas of how to reboot what they're doing in groups, and they're ideas that they can immediately take away and put into practice. And she does the activities with them like they're group participants, but then there's a lot of discussion around why are they doing it that way, and talking about what's the level of enthusiasm in the room right now. And I just can't recommend it highly enough. And I've had such wonderful feedback and people saying she should do all of our trainings. And I haven't shared with Jessie yet, but I saw her this morning. She was doing a training for us, and I asked her, because I was sitting there getting a lot of training ideas, the way that she was running activities. I was thinking, oh, our trainers could actually do this. And I asked her, does she do a train the trainer workshop? And she does. So we're going to be looking more into that and seeing, because I would love to present that to our trainers and get them excited again and think about different ways of presenting their information that's engaging and meaningful.
Tracy, can you share that information with everybody? Is she willing to? I don't know what she requires, but I know that we struggle with groups. So we have a lot of our younger clinicians that don't have that hands-on role play training that I remember I had in my graduate program. And so when they come here, and I was like gearing up and ready for groups when I came here years ago, but now we're noticing a lot of our staff don't have that background, or they have the online format and it's not the same thing. So that would be tremendous as a resource.
Yeah, I'll send that out to everybody, and I'll send out a link to her website and her blog as well. And she's her background is working with clients that are involved in the criminal justice system as well. So she has also done a couple of shorter presentations, one for clinical staff and one for our medical providers, about, and they were 2 hours long, about working with people in the criminal justice system, which was fascinating, really good.
Awesome. Wow.
I don't know if this has been shared already, but one of the trainings that I was told would be part of this role, me stepping into this role, was for suicide prevention training for non-clinical staff. So we got a grant to, well, actually, it's not really a grant, it's just, Tracy knows, it comes from Signal, I believe, as the funding comes through to train two people here at our agency, one being me and one of our clinical staff. And the training that we're using is called Question, Persuade, Refer, QPR. And I've just started kind of diving into it. It's a really great model, and the QPR kind of methodology, theory behind it is that anybody with the right training can be someone to intervene in someone's suicidal thinking, someone's risk. And it really just gives a great overview of you know, the history and the culture around suicide, the way to ask questions, you know, of course, warning signs and things to think about. But we're going to be using it here, All Health, really specifically for all of our like call center staff, our support staff, front desk staff. So I'm really excited about getting that training done for me, so that we can actually start getting, hopefully, maybe by next month or the month after, some stuff scheduled for those staff. So that's a cool thing we have coming up. Anybody else use something like that for their non-clinical staff?
Yeah, we use that as part of our 4098 work. So there's 4 of us now here that are trained in it. We've been using it in the schools. Really, it's gone great there. Some churches and the Boulder Bar Association, they really appreciated the training too. So I definitely echo your comments there. It's a great training for folks.
Yeah, we do it at Jefferson
too.
Center.
It's only like $5 for the book or something like that.
At Community Reach Center, we use Assist training for our non-clinical staff, which is a LivingWorks product. The challenge with Assist, it's an amazing curriculum and content, but it is a 2-day training. So people walk away feeling really empowered and it's amazing, but it's really hard to have people off site for 2 days.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, any other shout outs or issues on other topics?
Yeah, I had a few things. The first one is a question. Our EPIC team is looking for someone to provide training on a CBT for psychosis. And so I was, trying to do a bit of research online, and I wasn't coming up with much. I was wondering if you all have any resources or know of any people or organizations that provide that particular training. Not so much?
No. No.
Okay, I'll keep
Brandy, I'd be happy to outreach. We have a program called PrEP that works with first episode psychosis. It started out as a grant program, but they have a training that's specific to adolescents and psychosis. That might be CBT. I can kind of query our program manager for PrEP around that if you would like.
Yeah, that'd be great, because it sounds like that's basically what our EPIC team is they do the like first episode psychosis intervention. So
yes.
Yeah, so if they are doing or have access to a particular training, that would be great to see if it kind of matches up with what we're looking for.
No problem. I'll connect you with Ron Berry, who's our PrEP program manager.
Great, thank you. And then the other thing was, I just wanted to let you guys know on the technology front. I think I can't remember for sure if we've discussed this exact program, but when we were talking about whiteboard programs, there's one called Doodly, Doodley, I believe, and they are having a huge discount right now. It's normally like a monthly subscription where you pay, depending on the level that you get, it's like $40 to $80 a month. And right now they're offering a lifetime subscription for, I think it's like $70. So if you are interested in whiteboard technology, I did purchase it, but I haven't had a chance to actually get in and use it yet. So I can't say for sure whether it's a great program or not, but it did have good reviews and it's really affordable right now. So if you are looking into that, now's a good time. And that was all I had on my end.
Well, thank you. Thanks. Well, anything else before we talk about another meeting?
Can we add, Tracy, can we add Sierra to the email list? She's going to be taking over for me. My last day is 2:15, unfortunately. And so she will be at the next one. So I was going to give you, I could just send it to you in an email if you want to do that.
Oh, yes, if you can email me, Holly, that would be great. Thank you.
I will. Thank you.
And I just wanted to share with the group.
Sorry, go ahead, Elaine.
Sorry, I was just going to share with the group that we got a front page publication in Mental Health Weekly, if any of y'all saw that, around our Human Trafficking Fellowship and all of the training initiatives involved there. So if you have a subscription to Mental Health Week, if you're interested in seeing that article and all of the work on that fellowship, I'd be more than happy to share it.
Please. Yeah, I'd love to see it. Great job. That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Elaine, could you send that to me?
I'd be happy to.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, I don't know if others have a conflict. I do. Right now, it looks like we're scheduled the next meeting February 22nd. If I'm reading it right, Tracy, and I have on my calendar that's full for the Mental Health First Aid Coordinator Summit. So I don't know if anyone else has that conflict. If not, you can certainly go ahead without me. I'll have my QA folks join the meeting in my set if we do have the walkthrough me presentation. I know they'll love to see it. But, so it sounds like February 22nd is the next meeting. And
is
Craig,
anybody else affected by the Mental Health First Aid Coordinator Summit? Do we want to move that at all?
Yeah, I'm fine with moving it.
So I'm away the next week, but again, I don't have to be here, or we can move it into the previous week, the 15th.
Well, then it might make sense just to not have a February one and to go straight to the March.
So the March
15th works for me.
I'm sorry, guys. I didn't mean to muddy the waters here. I know how sensitive everyone's schedule is. So,
so should we just take a quick poll? Is there anybody that cannot make the 15th? Okay. So let's move it to the 15th then. Oh, Elaine, can you not make that? No. Okay.
That's okay.
Or we can just, as Craig said, skip February and just go to March 22nd and just email in between if you have anything.
Yeah, that might make the most sense. Okay. So we'll reconvene March 22nd then.
All right, and I'll get Jesse on the agenda for the walk me demonstration.
Well, thank you.
It's March 22nd good for you. Great. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thanks everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Oh, you all. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, take care. Have a good
Yes. We'll miss you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good luck. Good luck.
We'll carry on our overall mission of good care.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Nice weekend.
Bye.